It's time once again for Better Commander. Today we're covering the Masters of Evil, brother. Now the Doctor Who precons are officially spoiled. We can mess around with them now and get some bangers out there. Old Nikki G's going to go through each one. I'm going to give you some upgrades and cover everything about them. Let's start with the Masters of Evil. When I was a kid, and even to this day, I always loved playing the villains, man. The heroes always seem bland to me. You know, it's like, oh, let's save some guys. Like, who cares, man? Give me that money. Let me get that drip, dude. My brother wanted He-Man. I always wanted Skeletor. You get the idea. Down with the Doctor Who stuff. I'm a little fuzzy on the lore, you know. I never really got into Doctor Who, man. I don't know a Dalek from my Aunt Dana. Now, don't think this is your opportunity to come in here and educate me on the lore. You're going to get in the comments. You're going to be like, well, actually, the Daleks were... Listen, man, I don't really care. All right? There's some things I don't want to know. You know, I'm going to forget as soon as you tell me anyway. I could happily live out the rest of my days never being an expert on that stuff. But what I do know is deck construction, Magic the Gathering, the associated mechanics. So like, subscribe, and engage with me, brother. Now, the first thing I noticed about this deck is the themes. There's a heavy artifact creature theme, theft and goad theme to help control the board. There's a mild discard theme. There are so many cards in here, man, so many legends. I'm going to kind of highlight which axis each card belongs to. There are also quite a few political cards that force your opponents into horrible choices. Let's start with the face commander. You got Davros, the Dalek creator. I think this guy might be Greek, dude. 1 blue, black, and a red for a legendary artifact creature. Alien scientist, it's a 3/4 with menace. At the beginning of your end step, create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace if an opponent lost 3 or more life this turn. Is it Dalek or Dalek? I don't know, dude. Then each opponent who lost 3 or more life this turn faces a villainous choice. You draw a card or that player discards a card. Listen, this is just a wrinkly old man, dude. He's a very competent commander right out of the box. Having menace means he can bang in early game, trigger his end step ability. You only ever get 1 Dalek, alright? But people are usually loath to discard cards, so you can get some decently reliable card draw on this. It isn't guaranteed though. There are definitely decks where your opponents pass their end step with 14 cards in hand. They can just pitch a land or something, dude. This guy plays into the artifact creature theme by creating Daleks, and is a decent value commander with card draw stable to write on. Then you have some replacement commanders in here if you want. You have Ashad, the Lone Cyberman. 1 blue, black, and a red for a legendary artifact creature. Cyberman, it's a 3/3. The first non-legendary artifact spell you cast each turn has Casualty 2. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on the Lone Cyberman here. This is an interesting legend that is an artifact creature, plays into the artifact theme, and will be a great value commander in a deck built around artifact creatures. Think about sacrificing Solemn Simulacrum to this ability, dude, getting more artifact creatures. This is better with a higher density of artifacts and artifact creatures, I think. Pretty awesome commander. Oh man, here you go. You got the beat bops out here. You got a whole grip R2D2s. The Cult of Skaro, dude. 1 blue, black, and a red for a legendary artifact creature. Dalek, it's a 4/4. Whenever Cult of Skaro attacks, choose 1 at random. You have Thay, put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control. You have Khan, James Khan out there, draw 2 cards, that's pretty good. You have Wait a Sec, dude. Create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace. And then you have Jas Kidding, each opponent loses 4 life. At random, eh? With no evasion whatsoever, huh? Sounds really fun if you hate winning commander games. Just kidding. I will say that those are all pretty decent attack triggers. Then you have Messy Missy out there, dude. 3 blue, black, and a red for a legendary creature. Time Lord Rogue, it's a 4/5. Whenever another non-artifact creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control face down and tapped. It's a 2/2 Cyberman, brother. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent faces a villainous choice. Each artifact creature you control deals 1 damage to that opponent, or you draw a card and chaos ensues, dude. You just start flipping the table, freaking out. This is very British, dude. She's fighting with an umbrella. That's something they've been doing for centuries, dude, over there. This pays off removal and the ability to steal and sacrifice other players' creatures. I love it, dude. We are also creating artifact creatures, but this thing is 6 mana. So it's kind of a powerful effect, but I'm not sure it's that powerful. This is a lot of text, dude. This card should be called The Lot of Text. 1 blue, black, and a red for a legendary creature. Time Lord Scientist, it's a 3/4. Whenever this thing enters the battlefield or attacks, create a red aura enchantment token named Mark of the Ranny, attached to another target creature. That token has enchant creature, and enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. Whenever a goaded creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, investigate. Aw man, you're mixing up some Mountain Dew in that beaker, brother. That's goading everybody. This little lady is an interesting build around. You got Grixis Goad out there, right? You're creating artifacts clues, which are okay. You know, I'm not sure what the heck this card is supposed to be doing. Look at this hot little Balenciaga model out here, dude. You got the Valyard. 2 blue, black, and a red for a legendary creature. He's a Time Lord Noble. He's a 4/5. If an opponent would face a villainous choice, they face that choice an additional time, dude. While voting, you may vote an additional time. This guy's just a British lawyer, dude. That's what they show up to court in. They show up to crazy robes and stuff. This is 5 mana to maybe draw an extra card with your commander. This is more interesting for the voting mechanic, but there isn't really enough to build a deck around in these colors. You get an extra vote on Expropriate, but I think a legend like this will come into its own at some point in the future, maybe. So additionally in this deck, there are a few legends that bear discussion that couldn't be your commander because they don't have the right colors. But you got Rassilon, the War President here, 3 blue and a black for a legendary creature, Time Lord Noble. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life and exile the top card of your library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Each non-creature spell you cast from exile has Conspire. This is an old mechanic. As you cast the spell, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control that share a color with it. When you do, copy it and choose new targets for the copy. Interesting. It's interesting with cards like Aminatou Augury and cards that lets you exile cards later, though you need to pay attention to the wording to make sure you're casting them from exile, dude. But this costs 5 mana and you need creatures on board. It's a lot of hoops to jump through. Oh, here we go, dude. Straight off the cover of an Iron Maiden album, you got the Beast, Deathless Prince, 2 black and a red for a legendary creature demon. It's a 6/6. When you cast the spell, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, it gains menace and haste until end of turn. This guy enters the battlefield tapped with 6 stun counters on it. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to its owner, untap the Beast and draw a card. This is pretty awesome, dude. I had no idea that this IP had demons in it. Maybe I would have given it a shot too, man. He looks cool too. Like I said, he looks like Eddie. In the command zone, this plays really well into the steal and sacrifice theme. I could see this being a competent commander, dude. I had a Thraximundar deck that did that, but this is even better. It's too bad he's going to be tapped the whole dang game, but he does have some pretty sweet card draw stapled right on, dude. It's a neat concept, neat art, like it. The heck is this guy supposed to be? You got the Cyber Controller out there. X, blue and a black legendary artifact creature Cyberman. It's a 3/3. Whenever the Cyber Controller enters the battlefield, each opponent mills X cards. Put all creature cards milled this way onto the battlefield face down under your control. They're 2/2 Cyberman artifact creatures. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. This is kind of an unreliable army in a can, I guess. Typically, a commander deck has around 25 to 30 creatures, so roughly 1 in 3 cards, maybe 1 in maybe 4. If your opponents mill 3 cards each, that's 3 Cybermen, each getting +1/+1. So that's 12 power for 6 mana. It's not terrible. Plus that Anthem for the rest of your artifact creatures. This is not terrible as a role player in an artifact creature deck. It's a little weird. Look at this guy, the Dalek Emperor. 5 black and a red for a legendary artifact creature Dalek. It's a 6/6. It has affinity for Daleks, dude. Of course it does. Of course he loves his buddies out there. Other Daleks you control have haste. I don't know if it's Dalek or Dalek, dude. I'm saying it both ways. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent faces a villainous choice, brother. That player sacrifices a creature they control, or you create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace. No evasion on this guy either. Weird looking robots. Works decently well with the commander. The giving of haste is a little weird because the cards we've seen so far don't create the Daleks before combat anyway. Very weird card. I don't know how I feel about it. Vizlor Turlo. This guy looks like a dang lobbyist, dude. 3 and a black for a legendary creature rogue. It's a 2/5. He's got to deal with the Black Guardian. Whenever he enters the battlefield, you may have an opponent gain control of it. If you do, it's goaded for as long as they control it. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Then you lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand. Pretty neat, dude. He's also the Doctor's Companion. Pretty cool. What a weird card. This could kill your opponents if they have a full grip, dude. Over like 5 turns. It has a huge butt on it. It's out there doing squats, dude. But it's giving away a card every end step. I don't know. Seems fiddly, man. Maybe not really worth it. Alright, then we got 4 Masters, dude, just like your mom. The Master formed anew, blue and a black for a legendary creature, Time Lord Rogue. It's a 0/1. Has Body Thief, of course it does. Whenever you cast this spell, you may exile a creature you control and put a takeover counter on it. Doesn't say a creature you own, creature you control, dude. So if you steal a creature or something like that with one of these theft effects, you can just do this Master stuff. You can have the Master formed anew enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature card in exile with a takeover counter on it. If this guy had Flash, man, I'd be all about it, you know what I mean? Save one of your creatures. You do get to reuse the ETB on one of your creatures for 2 mana. Building a deck around that could probably work, but you could just clone it for 1 or 2 extra mana, I guess, dude, so you don't have to go through the whole thing of exiling it. It's an interesting card in a steal and sack deck, though. Then you got this master, he's the Gallifrey's End. 2 black and a red for a legendary creature Time Lord Rogue, it's a 4/2. Make 'em pay, dude. Whenever a non-token artifact creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, choose an opponent with the most life among your opponents. That player faces a villainous choice, brother. They lose 4 life or you create a token that's a copy of that card. This is another pretty savage Rakdos steal and sacrifice commander. You don't have to own the creature. Steal your opponent's stuff and make them pay for it when you sack it for value. Plus he's got a tweed suit with a red lab coat on, dude. That's my Sunday best, brother. This can be kind of bad though. If your opponent with the most life has 54 life or something, they're just going to lose the life. Then you got the Mesmerist out here. 2 blue and a black for a legendary creature Time Lord Rogue, it's a 3/3. Tap, target creature an opponent controls with power less than or equal to the master's power gains Skulk until end of turn, goad it. Whenever a creature with Skulk deals combat damage to one of your opponents, put a +1/+1 counter on this idiot and draw a card. Okay, you can make your opponent's little utility creatures attack and draw a card, right? But, I mean, more importantly, this is a Skull commander, brother. However, there aren't that many creatures with Skulk out there, and most of them kind of suck. This guy's interesting, I guess. Then we got the Master Multiplied. I like how the lady in the background is just like a hot dude in a dress. She's got his face. 4 black and a red for a legendary creature Time Lord Rogue, it's a 4/3 with Myriad. The legend rule doesn't apply to creature tokens you control. I like that, dude. Triggered abilities you control can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens you control. This is kind of neat, dude, I gotta say, but it's 6 mana. So the third ability there would prevent the delayed trigger by the Myriad ability going off, I believe. You would just keep the Myriad tokens. I could be wrong about this, but the way I read it, the Myriad ability creates a delayed trigger. Creates a triggered ability, the exile at the end of combat. You could abuse this in various ways, right? Effects like Delina Wild Mage, right? I love Delina. Could be abused to keep those tokens. It's pretty bonkers, dude. So that's 15 new legends in this deck. Jeez, man, seems like a lot. I'm not sure what the design decision is around the massive proliferation of legends, but you could just do a Legends Matters deck right off the rip here, dude. I don't know, maybe it's just because this is an established IP with a lot of interesting characters. Alright, let's take a break and talk about reprints real quick. So you have some staple ramp, some of the talismans, and a really sweet version of Lightning Greaves. But notably you have Snuff Owl, which had gotten up to about $9. This is a pretty useful spell you can cast by paying life if you control a swamp in here, okay? Alright, great, but there are only 7 swamps in the deck total, dude. Or ways to get swamps. That kind of brings me to the mana base in this deck. It's good that they're reprinting some of the recent Innistrad lands, but there are a bunch of tap lands that I would recommend get replaced by your shock lands or just basic lands, really, dude. If you just optimize the mana base on this deck, the deck's not bad out of the box. There are some themes you can kind of, pick and choose around, but there's only 2 basic swamps in there, buddy. I mentioned the reprints of Haunted Ridge, Stormcarved Coast, and Shipwreck Marsh. Those are great, fantastic reprints. We also get Fiery Islet, which was about $7. Overall, this mana base includes some really sweet reprints, but less tap lands is better, dude. I would get rid of the 5 to 6 tap lands and just slot in swamps and islands and mountains and stuff like that. Terramorphic Expanse can be replaced by Fabled Passage, dude, and that's a dope card. Get rid of that Temple of the False God too, brother. We do have some new lands. You got the Gallifrey Council Chamber legendary land. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 1. Tap, add colorless, or tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a Time Lord or an alien spell or activate an ability of a Time Lord or alien. I don't know, dude. It comes in untapped, I guess. If your commander's an alien or a Time Lord, that's nice, I guess. Then we got the old Ominous Cemetery. What is this lady crying about? What a loser. Tap, add colorless, 5 and tap, exile it. Target creature's owner shuffles it into their library. I don't know what's up with the angels in Doctor Who, dude, but this is a land with removal stapled on with a very low opportunity cost. Probably one of the better utility lands, though the activated ability is pretty steep. Alright, how about we talk about some of the new cards in this deck? Well, listen, man, there are a lot of them, and I'm going to cover some notable ones here. I'm not going to cover them all, dude, because you know what? I want to go back to sleep. We got the Auton Soldier, 4 blue for an artifact creature, alien soldier, it's a 0/0. You may have this guy enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it isn't legendary, is an artifact in addition to its other types, and has Myriad. Holy cow. That's another card that lets us copy a creature and make the copy not legendary. I look out for these effects, and the Myriad attached can lead to some really absurd situations. When you clone or copy this, the copy isn't legendary and has Myriad as well. I like this, dude, even though it's 6 mana. I mean, this is just a big crazy commander card. I'm going to definitely pick up a couple of copies. Then we have Delete. X red for a sorcery. It deals X damage to each non-artifact creature and each player. This is pretty awesome in an artifact creature deck, and there are quite a few of those out there in red. It's a one-sided sweeper with a sweet robot. He's just lasering you right in the groin, dude. It's going to delete your unborn children. You got Cyber Conversion out there, blue for an instant. Turn target creature face down. It's a 2/2 Cyberman artifact creature. This is an interesting piece of removal. The nice thing about this is that it doesn't change zones, right? So you can lock up an opponent's commander for 2 mana. Not bad. Don't Blink. 1 in the blue for an instant until end of turn. If one or more creatures would enter the battlefield from exile, or after being cast from exile, their owners shuffle them into their libraries instead, cycling for 2 mana. So this is an interesting card in the context of these precons and in the broader context of the format. If you're facing a Blink deck, this stymies that, and they're rampant in the format, dude, because of this Elish Norn, and you got your Panharmonicon out there, all that stuff. Imagine Brago blinking 4 creatures. Oh well, they're gone now, dude. The fact that it has cycling is pretty neat as well. Then you got the Weeping Angel out there. 1 blue and a black for an artifact creature, Alien Angel. It's a 2/2 with flash, first strike, and vigilance. Whenever an opponent casts a creature spell, this guy isn't a creature until end of turn. Very strange ability. If a Weeping Angel would deal combat damage to a creature, prevent that damage and that creature's owner shuffles it into their library. This is a creepy surprise removal with that weird caveat that makes it not a creature. I think that probably has something to do with the lore around the show. It's kind of crappy blocker if it just sits there, not a creature, unable to block, but it's kind of a neat surprise. Interesting creature here, the Zygon Infiltrator. 2 in a blue for a creature, alien shapeshifter soldier. It's a 3/2 with body print. 2 in a blue, tap another target creature, and put a stun counter on it. Zygon Infiltrator becomes a copy of that creature for as long as that creature remains tapped. Activate only as a sorcery. I like effects like this, but you can see it coming a mile away. It can only be activated as a sorcery and is temporary. Plus it looks like a guy in a rubber suit, dude. Exterminate, very interesting card. 2 and a black for a sorcery, has Replicate, tap an untapped Dalek you control. When you cast a spell, copy it for each time you paid its Replicate cost. Destroy target creature, its controller loses 3 life. Works great with our commander because he creates these little Daleks, brother. And its controller losing 3 life will have you make another Dalek, get another trigger off of it at the end of the turn. So this is R2D2 with PMS, dude. That's what the Daleks are, brother. If your commander's making these, this is an awesome card. All right, next up we got Will Smith. 3 in a blue for a creature, alien horror. It's a 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, goad up to 1 target creature you don't control and put a +1/+1 counter on Will Smith. Will Smith phases out. Dude, looks just like him. He's got his slapping hands ready, dude. This is a really weird card, man. He's free goad at every end step. He's out there goading Chris Rock at the Oscars, brother. Okay, Time Reaper. So this is 3 black for a creature, alien horror. It's a 4/4 with flying and haste. Has Consume Anomaly. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put target face-up card they own in exile on the bottom of their library. If you do, you gain 3 life. So this is interesting just for the fact that it's a horror, it has flying and haste, and it interacts with the exiled cards like Foretell cards, stuff like that, dude. I think this is a little better than it looks. You're also exiling cards with time counters on them in the context of these precons. Cybermen Squadron, dude. Nothing more terrifying than a bunch of men wrapped in aluminum foil. 7 generic mana for an artifact creature. Cyberman, it's a 5/5. Non-legendary artifact creatures you control have Myriad. That's pretty awesome, dude. What's up with this art, my friend? Looks like a dang cartoon. Pretty fantastic in the right deck, but 7 mana, I mean, that's pretty steep. Hunted by the Family. 5 blue for a sorcery. Choose up to 4 target creatures you don't control. For each of them, that creature's controller faces a villainous choice, brother. That creature becomes a 1/1 white human creature and loses all abilities, or you create a token that's a copy of it and they get to keep it. I don't know that I've ever seen a more British group of individuals, dude. There are tons of commander decks that want to make tokens of impactful creatures, and much of the time the controller doesn't want to take that hit to lose their creature. It's a pretty interesting card, although you might get screwed if you want one or the other. Cyberman Patrol, dude. 2 generic mana for an artifact creature. It's a Cyberman 2/2. Artifact creatures you control have Afflict 3. Yeah, man, that's a Cyberman, and this is particularly useful if your commander wants your opponents to lose at least 3 life. I like this card. So how would old Nicky G go about upgrading this deck? Honestly, leaning into artifact creatures and blasting through damage would make Davros a little more effective. Davros is an artifact creature himself, so remember you can stick cost reducers in there as well. Upgrading for Davros specifically, I concentrate on ensuring all opponents lose 3 life. You get more triggers that way and create your stupid Dalek token. Yeah man, the way I'm reading it, you only get 1 Dalek token, right? Even if like 3 opponents lose 3 or more life. I don't know, man. I'm not a rules expert, but that's the way I'm thinking that it is because it doesn't say each one. Anyways, Court of Ambition, 2 black for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life unless they discard a card. If you're the monarch, instead, each opponent loses 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. This plays into the discard theme and introduces the monarch. Pretty cool card, and you get your card at end step. How about Twilight Prophet out there? This vampire cleric has flying and ascend. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the city's blessing, reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that card's mana value. This just got a reprint. It's like $3 right now, dude. I recommend a pickup. Very powerful card for the mana value, plus it's got evasion on it. There are plenty of other ways to force through 3 damage onto your opponent so you get maximized triggers. You got your Tectonic Giant out there, dude. He's just out there stomping on your face. You got Fiery Confluence and these direct damage spells. These are super useful late game, can be very versatile. This deck is also mana hungry in 3 colors, so cards like Felwar Stone would be a great addition with the collection of mana rocks already in there. There's already 9 sources of ramp, so I'd maybe add 1 or 2. This deck also kind of leans into theft and control effects, stuff that makes your opponent sacrifice creatures or neuters the creatures altogether, so leaning into that is always fun, dude. Mob Rule is a game-winning card in so many decks, always a good include. I think your commander will draw quite a few cards, but if you lean into the theft effects, few sacrifice outlets like the man himself, this guy goes right into the Masters of Evil deck, brother. You got your Yawgmoth Thran Physician. This guy's an evil doctor, dude. He goes right into the Doctor Who decks. 2 black for a legendary creature human cleric. It's a 2/4. I think these guys went to medical school together, honestly. Has protection from humans and has pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card, dude. Has black, discard a card, proliferate. You want to capitalize on that, brother. This deck is interesting, man. If you wanted to capitalize on the artifact creature theme, maybe tool it over to Ashad the Lone Cyberman, which is such a 1970s thing to call a character, man, the Lone Cyberman. You're going to need sack fodder, but how good would it feel to casualty out a Cyberman squadron so he won't be alone anymore, dude? That would feel really good. But he probably needs his own deck. All in all, the flavor on this deck's pretty strange, man. Doctor Who flavor's neat. Some of the mechanics are neat. I would pick a commander and upgrade from there, maybe Davros or Ashad. There are too many themes going on in here, honestly, and some of them don't all work harmoniously together, so bop out some of those Masters cards and stuff like that. There's a lot of interaction, though. A lot of it's on creatures and lots of goad. Definitely could just play it relatively unaltered and upgrade the mana base, keep all that flavor, dude. Imagine this deck if you just play 0 tap lands, dude. With an optimized mana base, the deck isn't bad just out of the box. Maybe 5 or 10 cuts. I'm going to play around with building the Lone Cyberman, I think, because cheating things in is fun. Have fun with it, dude. Even if you don't like Doctor Who, check out that sweet Auton Soldier, buddy. Keep working out and you can have a physique like Will Smith here. Sneaky G from Better Commander signing off.